Will and Margaret here. We are here to do a young adult, basically reader's advisory, books that we enjoy.
We're kids at heart.
That's probably true for me especially. For those of you who are unfamiliar with our YA department, that stands for young adult, but there's a wide range of young adult books. One of the things the system's been working on, if you have a elementary school age kid, but they're on the cusp, maybe they're in 4th grade, but they can read at a 6th or 7th grade level. We've been trying to add middle readers, which can also be found somewhere in the juvenile section as well.
Yep, I've got one here for you. You'll see it's got a little middle grade sticker on there. You can find them, like Will said, in the young adult or the juvenile section.
So things like, the first Percy Jackson series are good middle readers for those who have those avid readers, but you don't quite want them to read some of the content that might be in the young adult section. We have stuff in young adult that's for teens, older teens, and then publishers now are realizing that there are young adults, as in like about 17, 18, about 24 years old, that would also be here, so the content does match that age level.
We're going to try and go over that a little bit in some of the books that we showcased today.
Yeah, I think we got a good range of everything. One of the reasons that publishers have gone this route in age and young adult is you might not be able to see her, but I can stand up as if she's actually here. The books are here.
It's her soul in the books, I'm telling you.
Sarah Moss and her, Throne of Glass series really aged up young adult.
They're so good.
I haven't read them yet. They're on my list, my very, very long list of books to actually read. Back.
They're really good.
So one of the things that I enjoy reading the most is fantasy books. Fantasy is traditional as like medieval setting, and then urban fantasy. So urban fantasy is anything that has paranormal, magic, anything like centaurs and stuff, but in more of a modern day setting. So
what got you into that?
I like dragons. Dragons and magic and warlocks. I don't play Dungeons and Dragons, but I probably should. That kind of stuff.
Mine are going to be a little bit more, I don't know.
Contemporary, maybe?
I'm a little all over the place in my reading, and that's going to definitely show today.
There are very few books that I enjoy that are contemporary fiction. If it could be real, I don't tend to like it.
Escapism.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have enough reality. Reality's great, but I like So I'll go ahead and start.
Yeah, you start us out.
So the first one I have, all of mine are series, and I pick series that have the most recent edition out as well, or it's finished. Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. She is of Nigerian descent, so I probably just butchered her last name. She writes about a world that is definitely inspired by her parents' home in Nigeria, and it is maybe sometime in the past. It's definitely not contemporary. And she writes about a world where magic has left, and the main character finds a way to bring magic back, but the monarchy there will do anything to keep magic away and out of the world because they see it as a threat.
Okay.
She uses a lot of Yoruba religious, what's the word I'm looking for? She uses actual gods and goddesses from Yoruba religion.
Oh, okay.
A lot of Nigeria now is Christian or Muslim.
So there's some historical, contextual.
The language in here actually is Yoruba. So if you can listen to it as well, it helps you pronounce things correctly. And it is definitely a very different type of fantasy than what I'm used to reading because, it's not medieval, it's not dragons.
It's not dragons?
It's not
no dragons in that one?
Not in this one. I haven't gotten to the second one yet. So the second one is out as well. Just came out last year.
So there might be dragons in that one.
Yes, but this is definitely for your older teens. There is some graphic fighting and stuff in here, and there's conversations about things like racism in ways you wouldn't quite expect.
I read the adult version of this, Born a Crime. It's about Trevor Noah, but this is an adaptation for young readers. Recommended ages around 5 and up. It's about his struggles and successes that he has met along the way, growing up in South Africa, and coming over to the United States and his career, everything. He talks about it in this book, and his relationship with his mother, as well as his estranged relationship with his father. Great coming of age story, and I have read that it was adapted very well. So like I said before, ages around grades 5 and up, it would be appropriate for. And this is actually in the juvenile section, in the biography part.
So my next one, I don't have the actual book for because it's checked out. So that's good.
That is good.
It is called Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin. She is a new author that is endorsed by Sarah Moss.
Okay.
The second book of this one should come out around September of this year. It tells the story of a former witch who has left her coven and magic behind, and she meets up with someone who works for the church, as in the Catholic Church, whose job it is to get rid of witches. And how does that relationship work out? Because there's other forces at work who are trying to get rid of each other. This toes the line with urban fantasy. It's probably about a 17th century time period, so 1600s, could be 1700s, but it's not quite urban because it's not quite contemporary. This one definitely is young adult, emphasis on the adult. If you worry at all, if you're a parent that worries about content for their kids, definitely make sure your kid's older when they read this. There is some graphic nature. It's a great book. I just want parents to know that some of these are not for your middle readers. When they get older, absolutely. So, if you get a chance to read this one, definitely read this one. She's probably one of the best new authors I've read in a long time.
Very cool. Is there a dragon?
There's not a dragon that I know of. I don't know if
I
any
might
of these,
ask you about that, about every single
I don't know
one.
if any of these have dragons.
For shame.
I am totally leaving what I usually like.
Look at that. Okay. My next choice here is Defy the Stars by Claudia Gray. This was a for teens read back, when was it? 2018, 2019. It is about a soldier named Naomi who meets a cyborg machine. I mean, he's artificial intelligence.
AI.
Yes.
Like Westworld.
Kind of. Yeah.
You've seen Westworld?
I haven't.
Trippy. Crazy show.
Have to check it out. So, and his name is Abel. They're forced on a journey together, and Naomi starts to see the humanity in Abel. It is part of a trilogy, and there's a lot of questions about, what makes us human. It gets pretty deep, but it's very riveting. And let's see. I'll say this is probably 14 to 17 in the age bracket category. Nothing too salacious.
So my next one I also don't have because it's also checked out.
That's another very good thing.
Mhm.
We're happy about that.
So it's actually the Diviners, or the Diviners series. This is all 4 book covers. Libba Bray started the Diviners in 2012. She finally has released the last one this year. It's time. I've been
Okay.
waiting a long time.
So this is good. So they're all out.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to wait. You can get the first one. You won't be like Will.
Right. Right. And I mean, and they're tones, but I understand why they're tones. She's got a bunch of different characters. It starts with a character named Evie who gets sent to New York City as a punishment. Takes place in the 20s, so definitely urban fantasy. She can read objects, and then she starts to find other people who have these other gifts that are called diviners. But something else is working its way to try to maybe destroy the world or maybe destroy diviners. I'm not really quite sure yet because I haven't gotten to finish this one because I waited forever for this to come out.
Gonna treasure his time with it.
Yes, so if you enjoy, bars and speakeasies in the 1920s. This is a good, fun, I would say slightly historical fiction, just because the dialogue she uses would be correct for the time. Some of the issues are correct for the time, but it's definitely not history. You don't love all the characters, which is okay. Some of the characters, I'm like, I'm having a hard time with this. But they're all teenagers, so this is probably a good, 15 to 17-year-old, or even older. Some of the themes in there, younger, there's nothing bad, it's just some of the younger ones might not understand all the context of what's going on.
And so you said it took a long time for all the books to come out.
Mm-hmm.
What was the time frame with the novels?
They've all stayed in the 20s.
Okay.
There's not that much time that surpasses.
Okay.
So it's just like, what's going on?
Interesting.
It was like waiting for Aragon to finish. And if you ever read Aragon, if you read it when it came out, you had to wait a long time for that fourth one to come out.
Those were big books too.
Yes.
I'm going to showcase this one just for a second, but I did not get the age range on this. So I would definitely recommend looking it up in the AR Bookfinder or on Goodreads to get a little bit more information. But this is Jasper Jones by Craig Silvey. Craig Silvey is an Australian author, so it is set in Australia, but it talks about race, about, some people compare it to To Kill a Mockingbird, because it's kind of in the same vein as far as grappling with racial relations and things like that. And about bias too, because the main character in this, Jasper Jones, is one of the villagers in their town that they live in, but Charlie is the main character, and he has to kind of decide for himself who Jasper Jones really is as a person. Is he as bad as everybody says he is? And so that's kind of the crux of this novel. But it was very good. I actually read it in graduate school, but I wish I had read it sooner.
I remember you reading it.
Mm-hmm.
So, my next one. As of yet, there's no dragons in this. In this particular series.
I've been wanting to read her.
Okay, so a lot of you know Cassandra Clare. You've read or seen The Mortal Instruments. It's now a TV show on Netflix or the
really?
CW.
Oh, there's
I'm
nothing
going to
better.
get this wrong. I've heard it's a lot better than the movie, which is good. The movie did not do the book justice. Their series, they only got through the one book. They didn't finish the series.
Okay.
So all of her series thus far that have to do with this kind of cover art, all related to the Shadowhunters. So it's not the Mortal Instruments. You have the Mortal Instruments, you have the Infernal Devices, you have the Dark Artifices, and then you have this beginning series, The Last Hours. So even though this is a sequel to all three of those, it's a direct sequel to the Infernal Devices, the Clockwork series.
Okay.
So it takes place telling the story of the children of Tessa and Will Herondale. So those of you who've read them understand what I'm talking about. There's a lot that goes on with these books. All of the series are connected.
That's so cool.
So
You can really delve into
it does
the
help.
characters.
Yeah, you don't have to read the other series. It does help you to understand what is going on in the context, because all the families keep popping back up over and over again. This one takes place in the 19-teens. It's definitely an urban fantasy. She goes back and forth with her time periods. Mortal Instruments is modern day. She goes back to the 19th century London. This is also in London. She is really good about keeping all of her details straight. I don't know what kind of like board and outline she has, but she must be massive, or she has a better brain than I do.
An Excel document the size of.
Yes. This was an awesome book, so I can't wait for the second one to come out. I believe this is supposed to be a trilogy. After she finishes this series, rumor mill has it, word on the street, for whatever the internet says, which makes it true, right? Is that her series after this one is going to be the last Shadowhunter series,
And then it'll be over.
and
You'll
she's
know all there is to know.
Yeah, sad. Something's supposed to happen with the Shadowhunters world that's supposed to be like crazy. I don't know what it is. No one knows yet. So if anyone knows Cassandra Clare, maybe we can get it out of her. But I definitely, recommend these. The back of this one, probably stand there. You can see all the different.
Show them the cover too, because the cover is so pretty.
Yeah. She has really good artists for her covers. Or her publisher does. And this one, her series are good for solid teenagers. As she goes on in the series, they get a little bit more adult. Nothing overly graphic, but there is allusions to certain types of activities, but nothing graphic.